This tutorial is going to be about using the pen tool, and there are many different ways you can use to select things, but something like, say, this truck, for instance, you have all of these nice smooth lines, and then there's so much going on in the background that using something like the quick selection tool, it'll be a little difficult to do that. The pen tool is something that requires a bit of work, and for most people it requires a bit of practice to get it right. I think it's one of the more difficult tools to learn how to use. So you have to work at it, but once you get it to work right, you get some really nice lines, because again, if you use the quick selection tool or something like that on here, these lines won't show up so well. But I've already done this, and I'm gonna enable this vector mask here that I have here, so you can see this is what it looks like. And I actually did a little bit of retouching to fix some reflections there, but you can see that this is very clean, and if I zoom in on it, these lines are tack sharp. There's no fuzziness or anything. These lines look really good, and this is what the advantage of using the pen tool is. So I'm just going to jump right in and show you how to do this. So anyway, I'm going to first start off talking about the okay, I'm going to click on the pen tool. I'm going to do the things that make up the pen tool. They're anchor points and handles, but first I'm going to talk about the anchor points. You can see right here, here's the pen tool, and it has this sort of asterisk looking thing next to the pen tool, which is telling me it's going to make a point. It's going to begin making a point. But another thing here, you can see over here my layers panel, there's also a paths panel, and right here you can see there's nothing there in the paths panel, but we're going to create a path. And I have two layers here because I'm going to make a path and then make it a selection and cut a shape into this blue area, so you'll be able to see the white beneath. That's why I have the two layers here. So I'm going to go back here to the paths panel, and once I click, again, you can see it has the asterisk next to the pen tool. When I click, that asterisk is going to disappear. I click. Okay, and now the asterisk is gone, and you can see there's a little point, or a little square point right here. It's a little square. And if I click here, it's going to join these 2 points. Okay, so what it has done, you can see this one is hollow and this one is solid, and the solid one is actually it's telling me this is the active point. And if I continue, I click, again, these are empty, empty, and this one's solid, telling me that this is the active point. And when I come to the end, I get the circle point, this circular icon next to my pen tool, which is telling me it's going to close the point. So when I click, it completes that point and it's deselected. And if I come to the layers panel, again, you can't really see anything. Alright, so you can see it in the paths panel. And what I want to do is I'm going to do right here next to the pen tool, right a couple of points below it, you can see there's these 2 arrows here. There's the path selection tool and the direct selection tool. I'm going to click on the path selection tool, which I often refer to as the black arrow tool. If you notice, I click and you see these are solid. Alright, each of these anchor points are solid. So when I click and move that, I can move it around and the entire path. But if I move to the direct selection tool, the white arrow tool, but first, since this is already selected, if I click and drag here, they're already selected, so they're going to move. I need to deselect, and then when I reselect it, you can see these are all hollow until I click one, and now that's black or filled in, so I can move it, with that direct selection. And then I click here, and now it's a direct selection. If I hold the shift key, I can select 2 points at a time. I hold the shift key, I'll select, all 3 of these are selected. I can select all 3 points. Again, move here, deselect, and I have these 2 points. Okay, I'm going to click off of it, and then I'm going to click on the point here. And I can also grab these side points as well. Okay. Alright, so that is how the anchor points work. If I want to make a curve point, I'm gonna delete this. I'm just gonna go over to my work path and click on the trash. Hit yes, delete it. Okay, now I'm going to click, I'm going to go back to my pen tool, and I'm going to click, and I have a, the anchor point. I'm going to click here and make another anchor point. And what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to click, and my finger is still holding down the button, and I'm going to drag. And you can see when I do that, I get a round, a curved edge. Okay, click, drag, click, and I'm dragging, click, drag, and click, drag. And when I get to this end point, I can just click, and it fills it in, and it deselects it. Okay, so I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to toss this in the trash. Alright, so now I'm going to do this again. And I can start off with a curved point as well. I can click and drag out the handle. Click and drag out a handle here. Click, drag, click, drag, and click. And once I click on the end, then I can sort of drag it out from there. But you can see I sort of made a egg shape, an egg shape here by using the curve point tools. And now I'm going to go back. Well, first I'm just going to click on that, hit the delete key, and I'm going to do this once again. This time I'm going to add some points. I'm going to show you how to hang on, I accidentally dragged. I'm going to show you how to change these points. Okay, so now I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to click on the direct selection tool. I can click on there, and if I want to change this into a curve point, I can I'll come here, and hang on, I want to go here. Okay, there's the pen tool, and then right below it is the convert point tool. So from here I can click on that point, and you see if I hover over that point, I get that funny little V, upside down V shape. And if I click and drag, I can turn the corner point into a curved anchor point. Okay, and you see how that's flopping over like that? That just means I just need to go back the opposite direction to fix that. And then here, click and drag, and now again I've changed that squarish shape into a roundish shape. And again, this is the convert anchor point tool. So if I just hover over here and just click, it clicks. I just click and it goes right back. Okay, so I'm gonna toss this path in the trash and start over once again. Okay, so now I'm gonna go click on this and go back to the pen tool, and I'm gonna click and drag, and I'm trying to show you the difference between, to show you how the handles work. So if I'm right here and I'm gonna click, and I've already clicked, and I'm gonna drag, and you can see I have to lead out this shape. Okay, I think the inclination is so to say if I want to adjust this, the curve of this line, I want to pull back over it, but that's not going to work, because you can see if I pull, it goes in the opposite direction. So if I want to adjust that curve, I have to move ahead of it, and you can see it sort of acts like a magnet. It's like if I pull out this way, the curvature of the line follows the handle, and if I swing back this way, it follows the handle this way, and then it kind of just pushes in. Okay, and if I come short up against it, you can see it just pulls from that area, and if I make it longer, it pulls up near this end. So the length of the handle makes a big difference. If I pull it out in the middle, I get a nice even turn, and if I stretch it out, it pulls tight that way, and if I shorten it and drag it back, it comes back this way. Okay, so again, remember, I have to lead out that the line. So if I click out here, again, the inclination might be to drag this way to adjust the line, but you see if I push up, the line goes down. I push down, it goes down, but you can see that extra bit sticking out in front. It's following that opposite handle. So remember, I have to lead out. So now if I'm here, if I pull down, it goes up, and I drag the handle up, and it goes down. But it sometimes takes a little bit of time to get used to the way this works. But you can see if I stretch this out too long, it gets hung up on this other anchor point, and it starts to stretch funny. So I have to watch the length of that that handle. Okay, so I'm gonna just kind of go around, try to make a nice little shape, and I'll click, drag, and you can see as I pull that up, it affects that line. And then I come over here, drag down, affects that line. Click here, and drag. Well, I want to go the other way. Okay, and you get a lot of control using these anchor points, doing it this way. Okay, so I'm gonna close that up, and then I'm going to reselect it. Alright, and I use the white arrow tool, the direct selection tool. So I can come back in here, say I want to move these, I can click and move that into place, adjust these handles. Okay, and I can get them lined up and do, you know, exactly, say these handles are too long, shorten that up, shorten that one, and I have a lot of control. And also, if I go back to the pen tool over here, you can see there's a add anchor point and there's a delete anchor point. And what I'm going to do is I mean, there's a thing up here, it says auto add, auto delete. I usually leave this checked because I can add points and delete points. But if auto add, auto delete is on, if I want to add a point right here, all I have to do is I just hover over the line where there's no line, where there's no anchor point, and you can see I have a little plus sign, so I'll just click here and it adds a point. And then right here where you can see there's a point that's already there, I just hover over that line and I click and it removes that point. So I'm gonna, again, that's because auto add and auto delete is selected. So I hover over, I get the little minus sign, click, delete. Click, delete. Here I'll click and add the point. And if I drag, I get a curve point. And if I want to adjust that point, I just go to the white arrow, the white arrow tool, and I can readjust that point however I want. Like that's sticking way out too far. Just drag that back in. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to take this shape right here and I'm going to show you how to make this into a selection. Okay, first thing I need to do is I need to name this thing, because say right here, if it says work path, if I click off of that and you can see it's still here and I start to make a new path, you see that just disappeared. Alright, and that's not what I want, so I'm just gonna undo, hopefully. Okay, and I brought that back by hitting Command Z, Command Shift Z, or basically just going to my history panel to go back to get this back. But again, remember, you have to name the path in order to save it. So if I double click on that and I can name it, I can just leave the default name here, path 1, but I'm gonna call it squiggle. Okay, and now it is saved. So now if I click off of it and I'm on the pen tool and I click and start drawing, making a new path, it makes a new one. So that's very important. You have to remember to name this, name your path. And again, it can just be path 1, path 2, but you have to name it. As long as if it says working path, it may or may not be there. You can go over here, do something else. When you come back, if you've made no other new paths, I'm pretty sure it'll still be there. But anyway, make sure to name your path. Okay, so now we have this path. I just clicked on it. I can click off of it. It's no longer selected. I just click in this gray area, and I can keep working, and you never even know that path is there. But if I come back here, I can see it's there. I click on it to select it, and you can have multiple paths here. As long as they're not selected, they're not going to be in your way. But now I'm going to show you how to make a layer mask out of this. So right here, again, one way I can do this is I can right click on here, and I'm gonna hit create a vector mask. And I'm not gonna go into this, but you can create a vector mask, and the vector mask is would be, you can continue to edit it, but I'm just gonna do this a regular mask and try to keep it simple. So I'm just gonna go in here to either this gray area, make selection, or I can right click here, make selection. But again, I'm just gonna come here. Oh, it's off the screen so you can't even see it. I apologize. I have more screen real estate, but for the video, the tutorial, it's off of the screen, so I'm gonna do it from here. Right click here, make selection. And again, I can do that here, and you can set the feather radius, and I'm just going to leave it on the default and hit OK. So you see, I've made the selection. I got the marching ants. So this is just like, say, if I use the quick selection tool or the magic wand tool or color range to make a selection. This does the same thing with the marching ants. So now I'll go over to my layers panel, and all I have to do is come down here, and where you have this the add layer mask icon, and click on it, and you can see it made a layer mask. And I can treat this just like I would any other layer mask. So I can where is that? What? Edit. Okay, refine mask. Again, that's off the screen. Pull it in, and I can add feather to it, or I can shift the edge in or out. Anyway, it's a mask just like I would normally make. And the same way, if I come here, just like I would any other mask, if I paint with black, I'm going to cover this up. Actually, my paintbrush is on 20%. Let me kick that up to 100. And you can see if I paint, I just add to this mask. And if I switch that back to black or to white, I can paint that out. Okay, so that's how you make a layer mask from the pen tool. I'm just adding this extra little bit here to the video because I neglected to put this in here when I originally made the video. But when you're working with the pen tool, make sure you're on this little menu here says path, because I mean that's the default. But if maybe you're working on a public machine or something, someone may have changed it to shape, and when you work with shape, you're going to end up with something like this, and that's not what you want. So I'm just going to delete that. Yes, and make sure that says path. And I also wanted to make sure that I covered this. If you using have auto add delete, it's unchecked. So if I hover over these points and I want to remove these points, I have to go over here to the add anchor point and delete anchor point. I'm going to start off with an add anchor point, and I can hover over these lines and click and add them. If I hover over a point excuse me, that's already there, if I hover over a point that's already there, it just turns to the white arrow tool and I can move it. So I'm just going to click anywhere on this line and I can add points. And if I click to the delete anchor points, I can delete the anchor points. Okay, I was clicking on a handle, that's why that wasn't working. Delete anchor point. And something that's interesting is if I hover over these end anchor points, it'll delete. Okay, but I'm gonna undo that, and now I'm going to put this back to the regular pen tool, and I go to auto add delete, and if I want to add a point, I click on it on a part of the segment that does not have a point, and if I want it to go away, you can see I hover over and I get that little minus point. But and in here I can get rid of this. But the thing that's different is if I hover over this end point, I get this sort of slash line, and it won't allow me to delete that final point because I guess it just wants to continue to make points. And if I hover over the end point, it gives me that circle to close it. So if you want to delete that end point, that the end point there, you have to select delete anchor point from here, and you can delete it. Now I'm going to try to get a little bit more specific with this and show you how I typically work when I make a path. Okay, so I'm going to click out here outside the picture and start it out here, so and I'm going to work. And you can see I can click and work my way in. See, this is all perfectly smooth edges, so I don't have to make any corner points. So I'm just going to click here, and what's going to affect it is the length of my curves and the angle. So I'm just going to make a little bit of an angle here, and I'm going to click right in the cusp of this soft curve here. Just bring it out a little so it'll be nice and round. And the main thing to remember, or an important thing to remember, is when you're working with these, economy of line is very important. You know, like you might be tempted to come across and, you know, just add a bunch of little points. But then when you go back to try to edit, you're going to have a lot of trouble. But the nice thing, I'm just hitting Command Shift, Command Option Z to go back again. It's just history panel. Okay, so you can see I have a point here, and then I'm just going to come all the way over here and add this point. And you can see I'm just dragging it out. And again, I'm going away from the direction that the line is going, and I have to pull up or down to get this line to, you know, fall into place. So I'm just going to go up, move that up until it lines up. But another thing I have to remember is I don't want to go too far out, because this is, if I'm just going to make the line here where this is too far out. So you see then when I come here and I make that line, it sticks out to, you know, it pulls that line forward. So I'm going to Command Shift and go Command Shift Command Option Z and go back. So here I'm going to bring that out, and you see I moved it in a little bit, so now I don't have to go all the way out here to make that curve. And again, after a while you get a sense of how these curves work. And okay, see right here you can see that line, even when I pull it all the way in, it's not working right. It's not lining up just right on the edge of that's because this handle is sticking out too much. Okay, oops. Okay, so what I need to do is I need to go to the white arrow tool to make an adjustment here. Okay, so I'm on the white arrow tool, and now I can just, no, I'm not on the white arrow tool. Okay, now I'm on the white arrow tool, and I can just grab that handle and just bring that in. You see, if I can just pull it in ever so slightly and shorten it till it lines up, and then I'm here. It's still like you can see these are hollow, and this one's solid black. So I want to continue that, and I can continue working on that line, because again that's black, these are hollow, so I can just click and drag, and again you can see the line. If I drag it up, you can see how it moves, and then bring it in just a little till it lines up. And you don't always have to do these perfect, because you can go back and edit them. Okay, see that's not lining up just right. I need to maybe move this one over. So again, I can just move over here to the white arrow tool and shift that over a little bit. Again, I can adjust these handles while I'm actively still drawing. And then I'm going to click back on that final point and continue. And then I can hover over this last bit, click, because it'll close the path. And then I'm going to click on my path selection tool. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to hit, actually I have to remember I need to name this up. I want it to be there. Right now I'm on the layers panel. I'm just going to click over to my paths panel and I'm going to name this, because right now it says work paths. That means if I started doing another path, it would not be named. So I'm just going to double click on those words, and I'm going to call it spoon. Hit enter, and now it's named, so now it's saved. Okay, so again, I'm on the black arrow tool, or I think the white arrow tool would work just as well. And I'm just going to right click and hit make selection. Or again, the way I usually go is over to the flyout menu here in the paths panel right here, but again it's off of the screen, and I'm going to hit cancel, and it does the exact same thing. I'm just going to hit make selection. Okay, so now I get this same dialog box. I hit OK, and it made it an active selection. Then I can come over here to my layers panel, and I can click on layer mask, and it made a nice layer mask. Alright, okay, so now I'm going to move on to something else. Okay, this is the one I wanted to use. This is a nice, simple wooden toy truck. It has lots of hard edges, and it has lots of round edges. And I'm just going to show you, because when I typically draw with these, I typically use the key commands. So I'm going to use the key commands and draw with this the way I normally do, rather than going in and doing so much editing. So I usually like to start, if there's a corner point, I'll usually start at a corner point and just click. All right, I'm going to hit command or spacebar, command, and zoom in on this so I can see close, see a bit closer what I'm doing. And then I'm just going to, there's a straight edge here, I'm just going to click. And it looks like there's a little bit of a line here, so I'm going to click, drag just to round that out a little bit, and I'm just going to click here. And there's a round corner here, so I'm just going to click and drag out just a little bit. And then I'm going to click here, click, drag, okay, click, release. All right, and I'm going to hit the space bar, move up so I can see the round, and then I'm going to click and drag here, and you can see that isn't lined up quite right, so I can click on the white arrow tool, I'll click on it and readjust that till I get something that I like. Actually, it looks like there's a bit of a space here, so I need an extra point in there. So I'm gonna click on the pen tool, and again, add delete is on, so if I hover over this empty point, I can just click and it'll add a new point. You can see I've got the curves, and I don't particularly like those. If I clicked on the white arrow tool, you can see I got those. I'm not crazy about it. So I want to get rid of those handles. So I'm going to go over here to the back to the pen tool, click, hold, and select convert point tool, and I'm just going to click one time, and now it's a corner point. Now I'm going to go back to the white arrow tool, click, and drag it into place. Okay, and oops, drag it into place. All right, and I'm going to click here, drag up to get that up. I'm going to hit the space bar. Actually, I'm going to zoom out a little bit, and now I'm going to go back to the pen tool, and you can see I can go here, and I'm going to come way down here, and I'm going to click and drag. And you can see, again, I'm leading. I'm not trying to push back on it. If I want to adjust the angle of that, I have to stay out in front of that line, and I can go, right, left from here. And I shorten it. So shortening the line and lengthening the line will also affect where it lands. And I'm going to drop right in, right there. And then I'm going to come over here, click, drag. All right, get that lined up. I'm going to come all the way up here, and I'm going to click and drag this out. I'm going to ignore what's going to happen after this. I got that lined up just right. Like, there's two ways I can go about this. One, the way I like to is I can just click on this line. I'm still holding on it. I haven't released the mouse button. And I'm just going to hold the Option key. Okay? And when I hold the Option key, I can make a cusp anchor point. I can break that line, basically. So this is lined up, so if I let go of that, it goes back to normal, and it becomes that straight bar. But if I hold the Option key, I can bend that line, but I need to release that so I can get this one, that back part of the line, lined up just right. And then I'm going to hold the Option key, and I'm going to bring that down so it lines up. Okay, and I'm going to hold that again. There we go. Okay, I'm going to hold the space bar, move over, and I'm just going to click here because I get that straight line. And actually, I don't like that curve of that line is pulled out a little bit too much. One of the things I can do if I don't like that anchor point right here, I think I need to get rid of it. I can hold the, I'm on the pen tool, I hold the Option, and I'm just going to click on the anchor point. All right, and it got rid of that line. All right, I mean, it changed it. It got rid of that handle. All right, but now I lost the curvature here. So I'm just going to go back to the white arrow tool, and I'm going to extend that till it lines up. All right, so now it's still going here. I'm going to reselect that point, and I'm going to go back to the pen tool and continue drawing. As you can see right here, I have to, in order to get the back of that curve to kick out enough, I'm having to take this line, that handle here, further than this point here, so it's going to pull it out and make it curve wrong. So I'm just going to hit Command Z a few times and go back. So now I'm going to click on this and I'm going to drag that out till I get that lined up, and I want to shorten that handle. And again, I can hold the Option key and drag that handle back in so it doesn't stick out too much. Now I'm going to click, drag, I'm going to hold the Option key, break that line, just drag it back on top of itself, and then I can just click here and spacebar to move that, and I'm just going to, I accidentally hit the C key. I need to get back to the pen tool. Okay, I'm just going to click here, drag, come all the way over here, click, drag, and again, remember, economy of line is important. One thing, say if I decide I don't like the way this is lined up, I can use the arrow keys to nudge this around and continue. Okay, I'm just using the arrow keys. If I hit the Shift key, it goes in larger increments. All right, or I can go to the white arrow tool and line that up. All right, now I'm going back to the pen tool. Actually, you can see I got that handle is sticking up way too much. I should have broken that line, but I'm just going to go ahead, move over here, click, and you can see that it's added too much of a curvature. So I'm just going to come back here with a white arrow tool, reselect that, and drag that in. And I'm just do my best not to pivot too much out to the side, so I can maintain that curve on the bottom side of that line. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to hold the space bar, move over, and back to the pen tool. Click, drag, and again, I'm pulling it out, pulling it forward ahead of that line. Don't go back. I'm going to forward ahead of that line and just adjust the length to get that to line up, and the the vertical and horizontal, all the to keep it lined up. And if you're concerned, you're having trouble with the lines, you can make short lines, and they will work. It's just sometimes the more points you have, they tend not to be quite as smooth as if you use the longer sweeping lines. So there's sort of a compromise. I'm just going to click release, and I got a nice anchor point here. Actually, you can see this is carved, so it's not perfectly round, but I'm just going to trim in on that a little bit and make it perfectly round. Okay, so yeah, I'm just going to cut in on that. Better to cut in on something like that than to go out too far, because if I go out too far, I'm going to have this white fringe on the edge. This way it's just going to be perfectly smooth. All right, I didn't put that anchor point in the spot that I wanted, so I'm just going to use the arrow tools to nudge it into place. All right, and then click, drag, and I want a nice solid anchor point, so I'm just going to click release here, click release, click drag. I'm going to I could put another point right here on the top, but I'm just going to come all the way across to the other side, click drag, and then I'm going to hold the Option key so I can break that point. Okay, click drag, space bar to move that on the place, click drag, and then I'm going to hold the Option key to bring that in, click release, no dragging, click drag, space bar to move it. And again, this is not perfectly smooth, but I'm gonna smooth that out for them. Click and drag, and then I'm gonna hold the Option key and drag that point back in on top of itself, and then I'm just gonna click here, drag, or just no drag, just click, and then I'm gonna click and drag here, make a perfectly round point, rounded edge, click drag out a little bit, click drag a little bit, and that's a pretty straight line, so I'm just gonna click, and then I'm gonna click and drag, click and drag, click drag, and we got to the end. You can see if I hover over, there's a nice little circular point, and I'm just gonna click, and it sets that, and it closes that and it closes that point. And once I move out here, it's really hard to see, but there is a nice faint line going around here. If I go over to Paths panel, you can see in the work path, let's see, I'm going to go to panel options here in this flyout menu just to make that larger, and thumbnail size, increase the size of that, hit OK, and you can see, so here's my, it says work path. And again, if I click off of this and I start with the pen tool drawing something else, I will lose that. So again, I'm going to hit Command Z, Option Z to go back again, and I need to name that. So I'm just going to double click on that and call that truck. Enter. So from here, I am going to click on the flyout. I need to select the path first. So rather than come over here and try to, I'm just going to click in this gray box, and that selects it. Again, it's probably really hard to see from here because of the screen resolution, but I'm just going to click OK. But trust me, I clicked here and it's selected the box. So now I'm going to click here and scroll down till it says make selection, and I get this box. I'm just going to leave it on the default, and you can see I got the marching ants. Now I'm going to come back out here to my layers panel, and I'm going to make a layer mask, although this is a background layer, and I'm not sure if it's not going to let me do it or if it's going to, I believe it's just going to convert this from a background layer. Okay, so you can see it converted it. It's no longer a background layer, and it made this layer 0. But you can see, I mean, this is really smooth. Hang on, let me change the color and make a new background. And you can see this is, you know, I could have cut in on this a little bit. Although this is one of those situations where if I'd made this a vector mask, I'd be in, this might be a bit better because I could continue to, continue to edit this. But this is still, again, this is still editable because this is just a regular pixel based mask. So I'm going to hit refine mask, and then right here we have shift edge. You can see I can trim in on that, and I'll just cut in just so that white edge is starting to disappear, and I'm just going to hit smooth to get rid of that, you know, choppy edges, get rid of those choppy edges, and then I'm just going to hit OK, and I'm going to zoom out. And actually that smoothing, I don't like that. I smoothed it too much. You can come up with some really nice actually, on second thought, I think I prefer to make this a vector mask. I'm gonna go back to my history panel, see if I can get back a few spaces. Okay, we're getting close. Okay, so now I have save path. Alright, if I go to path here, I can right click. Whoops, I don't want to do that. I want to click on the white arrow tool or black arrow, whichever one, and I'm going to hit make create vector mask. Create vector mask layer. Let me see. Let's change this from a background layer. Now let's try it. Go back. Okay, so this one, that's interesting. If I did it with a regular layer mask, it allowed me, it changed it. But if I want to create a vector mask, I have to change that back to make it no longer a background layer, and I hit OK. Alright, so you can see here it's labeled vector mask. So now I can come over here to my layers, and the difference here is how you can tell this is a vector mask. This is gray. If this were just a regular mask, that background color would be black. Alright, but the nice thing about this is you could see, let me make that, I'd made a new layer and I just filled it, edit, fill, and I put a color, hang on, what did I do? Okay, blue, that's good, and I hit OK. And now I'm going to drag this below that layer, and you can see I didn't trim in on that enough. So now I'm going to come over here to the white arrow tool. I'm going to reselect that mask, and you can see I can reselect that mask, and I can continue to reshape that. Okay, so I fixed that nicely. I'm holding the space bar to move this over. I got a little white here. I can just move that in and just look around here, see if I found if there are any more places. Okay, so I got a little bit of white right here, so I can just click on that point, drag that in a smidgen till I get rid of that edge, and I'm gonna zoom out a little. and check the rest of my edges, and I think that's about it. That's looking pretty good. So now I can deselect that, and again you can see this is a pretty clean. Okay, I got a little white here. Let's see. I'm gonna click on there, nudge that up, and again I can click and use the arrow tools, just move them in a little. Okay, that looks good, and I'm gonna zoom out, deselect, and you can see that's a really clean selection. Okay, I have these two images up here because I just want to discuss a little bit more in depth the difference between a layer mask and a vector mask. This one here on the left is just the typical layer mask. You can see it has the black background against the white. The black conceals and the white is revealing the image beneath. So if I right click, I can disable layer mask. It turns it off, and you can see the the full background. And I can right click and enable layer mask, and you get it back. But the thing here is, if you're used to using layer masks, you can edit this by, again, I'm going to paint it black, and that's going to conceal what I have here. I'm just going to hit Command Z to get that back, and if I go down here to my color chip, I'm going to paint in white, and I can reveal that background once again. Okay, so I can just sort of paint it in and paint it out. Another thing to remember is, say if right here I'm painting with opacity of 100%, is I can drop that down to 50%, and it sort of becomes transparent. And I'm painting this in so you can see that it gives this a gray, in this window here over my layers panel. You can see the mask is turning sort of gray. Okay, so the reason I want to distinguish that is because if I click here on the vector mask, the background is gray. So that's typically how I can tell the difference between the two. Is a vector mask is usually 100% gray here, and a layer mask is usually, I'm going to hit Command Z a few times, it usually has a black background. But again, that's not always true, but generally speaking, you can say if it's a layer mask that you're going to have a black background, and the vector mask is going to have a gray background. So I'm going to click on the layer mask here, on the vector mask here, and if I click on my down here, the direct selection tool, the white arrow tool, I can click on this mask, and I can continue to edit that just as I would when I was using the pen tool. Okay, so you can see I can really carve into this and still continue to make these very hard, crisp lines, just like I would with the pen tool. And for some reason, if I decide that I want to make this a vector mask, I can always come over here to the layers panel, right click on that. Well, that's not what I wanted. I can right click on the vector mask, and it says rasterize vector mask. Again, this is being cut off because it's off of the screen here for the. So, but I'm gonna just click rasterize, and you see that immediately turned black. And from that, I can treat it just like I would any other layer mask. If I use the paintbrush, I can paint in and out just like I did before. But again, from here, now I have to go in a pixel based manner and clean this up if I wanted to change that. But I no longer have that ability to make these very smooth lines. But again, the vector mask is, it's 100% opacity, 100% opaque, or it's 100% transparent. Whereas with the pixel-based mask, I get that I can adjust that opacity. I can have some sort of the transparency where I don't have to have everything showing through at 100%. So that is basically the difference between the layer mask and the pixel mask. One last thing, actually, I'm just going to hit undo on this one a few times, make it back into a vector mask. I can adjust the opacity here. I need to click on this here because it was telling me the vector mask wasn't selected. And I can actually, to take back what I just said, I can adjust this to a certain degree the opacity. You can see you can see that opacity here, but it's sort of an overall changing. I mean, I can feather the edges, you know. Now I'm gonna close that off, and now I'm gonna go back to my vector mask. I mean my layer mask. Now I'm gonna go back to my layer mask, and if I double click on this, I get this same dialog box where I can, I can adjust the density. But again, there's already some transparency here, so it's adding into that transparency, and I can feather the edges from that as well. And here I can also access this refine mask, dialog box if I want to further make changes that way. And that's pretty much the difference.